My name is Gina Marino, and I'm going to be presenting to you today about Big Pharmacy, Big Ripoff. My topic for our final speech was Big Pharmacy and the price of prescription drugs in the United States. So, to start off, I'm going to give you a quick summary of what Big Pharmacy means. So, the term Big Pharmacy is used to describe the massive pharmaceutical companies that make millions of dollars each year to keep Americans supplied with their prescription medications. There are two aspects to Big Pharmacy, and the first is the pharmaceutical companies themselves. These are the people that are manufacturing, advertising, and then distributing the drugs. And then there is the faceless corporations, and these are the people that push the medications onto patients to buy these different medications. Next, who is getting rich off of healthcare? So I have a question, who do you think is getting rich off of healthcare? So I'll give you a few hints, and these are the government, insurance companies, or pharmacy benefit managers. And to start, everyone is probably thinking, oh, the government. And it is a very good guess, but it is actually the insurance companies, because insurance companies price gouge pharmaceutical companies to make the name brand drugs and then stop producing the generic drug. And this is jacking up a lot of prescription drugs, and this is kickbacking a lot of money to insurance companies because they are gaining money off of these deals. So I'm going to show you a quick little 3-minute clip, and it gives you kind of a background of what we're going to be talking about today. So this clip is a short little clip.
Are large pharmaceutical companies actually manufacturing diseases? You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. Here are the facts. The human species has an ancient relationship with drugs. Researchers from the University College London and North Carolina University found evidence of drug use during the Stone Age on the Caribbean island of Curacao. If anything, it seems humanity's relationship with drugs has only grown closer. In 2011, doctors wrote 4.02 billion prescriptions in the United States alone. And while major drug makers have saved billions of lives, they've also generated criticism around the globe. The top-ranking pharmaceutical companies have been accused of everything from corruption and price fixing to putting profits over health and even inventing diseases. Could any of this be true? Here's where it gets crazy. Well, yes, some of the claims at least have been true in certain cases. Consider the theories about corruption. Proponents believe that large drug makers bribe doctors, politicians, and institutions to approve and sell drugs regardless of the downsides. In 2012, GlaxoSmithKline pled guilty to criminal charges, including bribing doctors and misrepresenting drugs like Wellbutrin, as well as suppressing unfavorable studies about Avandia. The company paid $3 billion in a fraud settlement, and no individuals were charged. This doesn't mean that all companies engage in these practices, but this case certainly has not lent credibility to the industry. But would drug companies actually create a disease? It's an outlandish question, and the answer is complicated. There's no proof that scientists in some secret lab are cooking up a nastier version of the common cold, at least not in the private sector. But analyst Arthur Kaplan argues that some companies have become unethical disease mongers, redefining common conditions like unhappiness, stomachache, or boredom as diseases. More importantly, as diseases that can be cured by new medication. Industry representatives dismiss these arguments, yet proponents of alternative medicine believe the situation is even more dire, accusing companies of only manufacturing drugs that treat symptoms, and also of ignoring diseases that affect population segments either too poor or too small to turn a profit. It's important to remember that these companies are not one monolithic entity. They compete and seek to turn as much of a profit as legally possible. But what are the laws exactly? How are they written, and how do they affect you? According to a growing mass of critics, that's something Congress doesn't want you to know.
For in the end, each new discovery finds its way to the local retail pharmacy. But
Okay, so we we just watched that quick little video. If there are any questions, let's just hold the questions to the end. And now moving on. We're going to talk about those frustratingly high cost of prescription drugs. So each year prescription drugs keep going up and up, and many people are still having hard times to pay for these drugs. So this brings to the questions, are doctors actually doing their job to the fullest ability? And so I'll just put a little snippet. Doctors are taught many things in medical school. However, they are not taught the high cost of medications, and they don't learn much about like healthcare management and all the different factors that go into healthcare. They are just there to treat patients and write prescriptions, but that is the biggest problem, writing those prescriptions. So are the overall health of each patient actually being met when they go to see a doctor? So they'll get diagnosed with a different bacterial infection or something, or even pneumonia, and then they need antibiotics to treat that pneumonia, but are unable to pay for that drug. So what do people do? So I always think of when I was little, my dad, our insurance got kicked back a lot, and we didn't have insurance for a while, and I got a really bad infection. And then we were unable to pay for the antibiotic that I needed to treat my infection. So my dad fought tooth and nail to help me get that drug, but we just at the end of the day couldn't pay for the drug because he was either paying for the prescription drug or having dinner that night. So we went, and then finally, after fighting and fighting, I was put on my uncle's insurance, and I was able to get the drug that way. But it's just something that is a horrible thing to face, and as a parent, it's a horrible feeling to have. So next, we're going to talk about a solution to this horrible problem. So what is the solution? And many people don't know, but there was one state, and it was in Maryland, that put laws in place to protect consumers who rely on generic drugs or different prescription drugs. However, this law was struck down because it violated the Constitution and it violated the Commerce Clause, and because it would regulate sales outside of the state, and these are things that are controlled state to state. However, other states are still trying to limit prices to drugs and prescription drugs, but it's still a huge problem. Another one could be rebates. So you could have people who have a bunch of refills on medications but can only pay for one of those prescriptions and can't pay for the refills. So you could offer rebates for people that are continuously getting refills on different drugs. Another one would be preferred drug lists. So some states have $4 prescribed drug lists, and these are like common generic drugs that are used, and they are only $4. So some of them would be like ibuprofen. So you think, oh, ibuprofen, you could buy that over the counter. But for some people who would use it for chronic pain, they need a higher prescription or higher milligram that is not sold over the counter. So they need that prescription. So these drugs are only $4, and people are able to get these drugs to help them live or lead a normal life. So we're going to have a little recap and a quick summary. So again, we're going to start off with the two players of the big pharmaceutical companies, and those are big pharmacies, and then the pharmaceutical companies, like I said, and faceless corporations. And these are like different corporations, like insurance companies, and some of them might even be like generic drugstores that we see around here, like Rite Aid and CVS. And then who is actually getting rich off of healthcare? So before I started my research, I automatically thought it was the government. The government has to be getting rich off of these medications. However, I was sadly mistaken, and the biggest people that are getting the most money off of these drugs are insurance companies because they're price gouging the pharmaceutical companies. And then next, are doctors actually doing their jobs? So yeah, doctors diagnose and they prescribe, but is their job really fully met after the patient leaves that treatment room? And that is still a question that is not answered today. And then finally, different solutions. So we need to have more laws that are put in place, but those are state laws, so it has to be state to state. And then also, again, like the $4 drug lists, then maybe more medications can be put on that list, and then also the rebates that could be offered to people to help them when they don't have any money to pay for drugs that they need to get healthy. And then finally, I'll just show you my references, and we're going to close out. I hope you all guys have a great time with the rest of your semester and good luck on your finals. Have a good night, guys.